All right, so the Detroit Lions made a couple of roster moves today, which involved potentially signing their starter or starting guard for this upcoming season, as they are signing, according to first reported by Mike Garofolo, happened early this morning. Says the Lions are signing veteran offensive lineman Trystan Colon. It's Cologne or Colon, I don't know what it is. I think it's Cologne. To a one-year deal, source says. The former Ravens and Arizona Cardinals guard/center, who started 7 games for Arizona last season, joins Detroit after the retirement of Frank Ragnow. So, Trystan Colon-Castillo, I went over him, what was it, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, in my video about us signing Divaad Wilson and releasing Gavin Holmes. I went over all the center, guards, free agents, even a couple of tackles that could potentially be on the Detroit Lions' watch. Trystan Colon-Castillo sticked out at center because let me show you this real quick. This was insane to me when I saw it first. Now, the fact that we signed him, it almost makes me a little bit nervous in a way. So, this is on SpotTrack. It still hasn't quite updated yet as the Lions signing him, but this is SpotTrack.com. Trystan Colon-Castillo, by the way, is 27.2 years old, so he's on the younger side. So he signed a 1-year, $7.5 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals last season. His market value for free agency this upcoming season for a new team was $16.5 million was his market value. And if you click on his profile and you go to his market value in terms of his projected years and stuff was a 3-year, almost $7 million projected contract is what SpotTrack had him getting. And SpotTrack, keep in mind, is right 85-90% of the time on their contracts. So it almost makes me nervous in a way that the Lions gave this guy some money. I personally don't believe it. I kind of see him at most getting like $2.5 million. But it almost makes me nervous in a way because if he got this type deal, it'll make him the 12th highest paid guard in the NFL and the 154th highest paid NFL player. So that's just, I don't understand that at all. That's kind of like what I'm like with Levi. Now, Levi's market value, SpotTrack was essentially right on. I'm pretty sure Levi's market value on SpotTrack was like $4.2 million. He ended up signing a $4.5 million deal with us. But Lions insiders and all that said, oh, this Levi's going to get some money this free agency. He's going to get on the upwards of $12 to $15 million. I thought that was insane. He had a good year last year, but not that good of a season. I expected him to get around like $6-7 million. I think $5 to $7 million. He ended up getting 4.5, and that was only like $300,000 off from what SpotTrack had him projected to getting. So it almost makes me nervous in a way. Again, I kind of expect Trystan Colon-Castillo to sign a 1-year, $2.5 million deal somewhere on there. But this will be fairly cheap for the most part. But that would make me a little bit nervous if the Lions, obviously they wouldn't give him that type of money. No player left in free agency at this point would get that type of money besides maybe a guy like Asante Samuel. Because, I mean, I don't know how he's still available. I understand he had an injury, but it's insane how he's still available. But I just wanted to show you that because I found that interesting. But Trystan Colon-Castillo is 27.2 years old, just turned 27 years old, former UDFA by Baltimore back in 2020, from Missouri. And the Lions, shortly after Mike Garofolo reported his signing, they also announced that they have waived injured cornerback Divaad Wilson, who they just signed a little over 48 hours ago. It's very unfortunate for Divaad, but it's almost funny in a way. I don't think I've ever seen a player get signed and get hurt and released that quickly by a team, let alone by the Lions before. I mean, that was insane. I could barely pronounce the guy's name in my video I made about him, and could barely remember his name, and good thing I don't have to remember his name now because he's not on the team. So, Divaad Wilson, best of luck, man, for you in your future, but it's kind of funny and unfortunate in a way, but again, Divaad Wilson's no longer on the team, and they reportedly signed offensive lineman Trystan Colon. It didn't say guard or center, so that means they're probably going to give him some flexibility here to play center or guard. Now, what this means for the Lions, to get to the actual point of the video, Trystan Colon-Castillo. We'll go over his PFF grades here first, and then we'll go what my opinion on what the Lions will do with Colon-Castillo. Trystan Colon-Castillo, let me blow this up a little bit more. It's a little bit small. He started 7 games last year for the Arizona Cardinals, all at guard. However, his first, 3 seasons in the NFL, he played primarily center. So he has the flexibility at center and guard, and in fact, in college, he played center at Missouri, not guard for the most part. So Trystan Colon-Castillo is more of a center than a guard, even though he played guard primarily these past 2 seasons. Now, Trystan Colon-Castillo had a pretty good PFF grades last year in his 7 starts. He's 6'4", 313, like I said, 27.2 years old. He had a 71 overall PFF grade last year, which made him 29th among 136 guards, 65.9 pass block grade, which is 50th of 136, 68.5 run block grade, which is 42nd among 136, and he had 386 snaps last season, which is 70th of 136 guards. And you go down a little bit more deeper, he only allowed 1 penalty on 386 snaps and allowed 0 sacks. So this guy is very interesting. Only allowed 12 pressures as well, 3 quarterback hits. So this is very interesting. 2 of them, 215 were pass block, 171 were run block snaps. And all of them were played at right guard. So Trystan Colon-Castillo, those were his PFF grades from last season. So Trystan Colon-Castillo, this is a very interesting signing to me because this guy has a legitimate chance to be a starter for us next season, but he also has a legitimate chance to not even make the roster. So this is a very interesting signing for the Lions. He could be a starting guard, he could be a starting center, he could be a guard center, training camp, preseason, rest of OTAs, but he still might not even make the team. So, in my opinion, even with Frank Ragnow retiring for the Lions, I was not on board with signing an offensive lineman. I was fine with it if we did it because just to add better depth and competition, get a veteran in that room as well outside Graham Glasgow. But I wasn't all on board with signing an offensive lineman because you're already going to have most likely Ratledge and Glasgow competing for the starting center position. You're going to probably have Miles Frazier potentially now competing for a starting guard spot with either Glasgow or Ratledge. Not Ratledge would start no matter what, but competing with Glasgow for a starting shot, or even Mahogany. And you still have my guy Natane Mutai as a backup guard, and you still had Keo Wosika as a backup guard. I'm missing somebody. And then you always had my guy who was really high on when we picked him up in UDFA free agency last year, Kingsley Ekukan, as your overall primarily center. Now, Kingsley Ekukan is still the only designated center on the Detroit Lions roster. So Kingsley Ekukan will not start for us next year unless of an injury. But as a backup, he has a legitimate chance to make the 53-man roster next year. I know Michael Neese is technically a center, but he played guard for us last preseason, and played center for us when he came in for just when it didn't matter when he came in last season when we were beating the Jaguars and Titans. He came in, but those snaps didn't matter anyway, and he did play center at that time, but it didn't matter. But he's a center/guard. Kingsley Ekukan is primarily our only center on the team. So Trystan Colon-Castillo, I expect to play center for the Lions. I expect for him to compete with Tate Ratledge and Graham Glasgow for the starting center job. If he wins the starting center job, then I believe the Lions' starting offensive line will be Tate Ratledge at right guard, Mahogany at left guard, with Graham Glasgow being the backup center/backup guard, most likely the backup center, though, if Trystan Colon-Castillo does not do good. And if Trystan Colon-Castillo does not win the starting center job or even a starting guard job, but again, I expect him to primarily be a center for the Detroit Lions. If he does not win the starting center job, I think there's a legitimate chance he does not make the roster. That's just how it am. That's what I believe. Again, in my opinion, this is probably going to be not near the veteran minimum, but it's probably going to be pretty cheap for the most part, $2 to $2.5 million. The details have not came out quite yet. But it's a very low-risk, high-reward signing. The guy has been very decent throughout his career. He's started quite a bit, has starting experience. He's a veteran, will add more leadership to that room, but he's a veteran who's not super old like Graham Glasgow, Graham Glasgow's 32, 33. So Glasgow's on the older side, while Trystan Colon-Castillo is just turned 27. So he's a veteran, still on the younger side, though. Still has the potential to be a future starter, whether that's with the Lions or with another team in the future. So, again, I like the signing, low-risk, high-reward signing for the Detroit Lions. And, again, at worst, he doesn't make the team, and you don't lose any money from it because, again, it'll be near the veteran minimum most likely. So, Trystan Colon-Castillo, welcome back to Detroit. Divaad, Um, Divaad Wilson, still can't barely remember his name, but Divaad Wilson was best of luck to you. And the Detroit Lions will still have a roster spot open once they make Frank Ragnar's retirement official. They have still not announced his retirement on their Twitter page, so once they do that, then we will get another roster spot for Frank Ragnar retiring, which I'm hoping that roster spot will be to either bring back Zadarius Smith or sign another edge rusher. I did want to bring this up as well, and I'll wrap the video up. That yesterday, I think it was yesterday, last night, the Jaguars signed veteran defensive end / defensive tackle Dwayne Smoot, one of the better defensive ends, defensive tackles still available. So he is now off the table. And slightly after Trystan Colon-Castillo got signed today, where's it at? Let's find it here. I must have not pulled it up. There it is. According to Jordan Schultz, the Jaguars also signed linebacker who can rush the passer, Dennis Gardeck, who has 17 career sacks, including 9 over the past 2 seasons, a former UDFA. Dennis Gardeck, I was really pushing for the Lions to sign. He was my second highest free agent that made sense for the Detroit Lions to sign, with the remaining of free agency behind Zadarius Smith. Dennis Gardeck made too much sense for the Lions to need. Now, we did sign Zach Cunningham, so I thought once we signed Zach Cunningham that this would be very unlikely for the Detroit Lions. But he could have filled 2 needs in one. Could have filled linebacker 5 need. And he also could have filled a pass rushing need because he can rush the passer. He is exactly like Andrew Van Ginkel, who can drop back in coverage, and he can rush the passer at a very high level in coverage and rushing the passer. So it's a little bit unfortunate that Dennis Gardeck is now off the table. My second best free agent for the Detroit Lions, now that's still available, is probably Jadeveon Clowney. I really like Kazir White. He's up there as well. But Zadarius Smith is by far the number 1 free agent available for the Detroit Lions that they should sign. That would make sense for them to sign and bring back. So hopefully Zadarius Smith come back. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you like the Trystan Colon-Castillo signing? What do you think it means? Could he start? Could he be the backup? Do you think he'll play center guard? Want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. One Pride. Go Lions.